The British Bulldogs were feared for their ruthless pranks. What happens when the bully gets a taste of his own medicine? Got a wild story when Jacques Rougeau decided to end the Bulldogs' reign of terror once and for all, specifically the Dynamite Kid. In the late 1980s, WWE's locker room was a breeding ground for intense rivalries, both in and out of the ring. Among the most notorious were the British Bulldogs, known for their cruel, practical jokes backstage. But when their pranks went too far, Jacques Rougeau of the Fabulous Rougeaus took matters into his own hands, leading to one of the most legendary backstage brawls in wrestling history. How did the British Bulldogs' pranks lead to a full-blown locker room war? The British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith, and the Dynamite Kid were not just dominant in the ring, they also dominated the locker room with their vicious pranks. From putting itching powder in wrestlers' clothes when it was wintertime outside, or cutting up the wrestlers' street clothes while they were performing in the ring, they made life miserable for anyone who crossed them. However, when Jacques Rougeau became their latest target, he wasn't willing to take it lying down. The British Bulldogs' prank set the stage for a confrontation that would change the dynamic backstage forever. What pushed Jacques Rougeau over the edge? The tipping point came when Jacques Rougeau returned to the locker room one day to find his clothes had been tampered with. Convinced the Dynamite Kid was responsible, Rougeau decided it was time for payback. He didn't just want to retaliate, he wanted to send a message. The real instigator of this was Mr. Perfect. He knew that Dynamite Kid did not like Jacques, and it was Perfect who cut up Jacques' clothes and told him that it was dynamite. And according to the story, it was Mr. Perfect who set up Jacques Rougeau to be jumped by the Dynamite Kid. Jacques practiced his perfect punch for weeks leading up to the occasion. With a trick taught to him by his father, Rougeau, who had a loaded fist with a roll of quarters, waited for the right moment to sucker punch the Dynamite Kid, and when he did, he knocked out 4 of his teeth. Even in Jacques Rougeau's own words, anyone else would have went out cold from a blow like this. This calculated act of revenge was the result of weeks of planning, and it left the entire locker room in shock. What was the fallout from Jacques Rougeau's revenge? The locker room was electric after the brawl. Despite attempts by Vince McMahon to mediate the situation, tensions remained high. At Survivor Series 1988, the match was carefully scripted to prevent Dynamite Kid from getting revenge on Rougeau. The Fabulous Rougeaus were eliminated early, and by the time the Bulldogs had returned to the locker room, the Rougeaus were long gone. This incident marked the end of the British Bulldogs' dominance and the end of Dynamite Kid's WWE career. In the end, Jacques Rougeau not only got his revenge, he also outsmarted one of the toughest and meanest men in wrestling, proving that sometimes brains beat brawn. Real drama often happens behind the curtain. This legendary story and brawl showed that even the toughest wrestlers aren't invincible when someone has the determination and the smarts to take them down. Another wild backstage brawl in the history of wrestling was at ECW's WrestlePalooza 1998 between New Jack and Junkyard Dog. You can check that out right here.